my beautiful babies. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most divisive films in recent times, Darren Aronofsky's Mother.
We spend all our time here. I want to make a paradise.
She redid all of that, every last detail.
So how do you feel about Mother?
Well, the first thing I want to say about Mother is that I think that you should go and check it out if you have not seen it in the theater. I feel like it is an experience totally worth your money. So check it out.
Well, personally, I think that people should see it under the context of how we saw it, without any prior knowledge at all.
Well, I think that you're right. I think that going in cold to this movie was really cool for me. I really enjoyed that experience. Although I don't know if that's possible because I have seen a lot of buzz around this movie where people are talking about it. And it's hard. At this point, it's harder to go in completely cold.
That's true. It is 2 weeks old now.
Yeah. So, there's already been the big round of what do all the mainstream people think about it. From what I've felt from the buzz and the headlines and the clickbait articles that I've seen about Mother, they have been seemingly more negative leaning than positive leaning from what I've experienced.
Really? Well, most of the things that I've seen have been 75% positive.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we just have different feeds, I don't know. But I'm not surprised, though. I'm not surprised to see that this movie is so divisive and that people are having these reactions to the film, extreme reactions to the film.
So a lot of people have been bringing up that this movie received an F cinema score.
Cinema score is based on audience. So when an audience member comes out, you have a cinema score guy who's like, hey, how did you like the film? And if everyone who comes out of the film said they hated it, then that's why it gets an F. And so with this film...
And that's only happened 20 times.
Yes. And with this film, I feel like people didn't like it mainly because they didn't understand what they were getting into. They were billed as, this is going to be a haunted house film or a Rosemary's Baby type film. And then when they went, it wasn't just a linear kind of horror story thing. It was something that was much different.
Yeah, it's not the horror genre movie.
No, it has lots of horror elements in it, but it is not a horror movie.
Yeah, and so people going to think they're going to see a horror movie are going to be disappointed.
Yeah. But again, it's for me, though, I am a horror fan, and I thought that this had amazing horror elements in it. It sucks that I can no longer say that I'm a horror fan because I identified as that for so long, but the movies they're making nowadays are just so fucking basic and lame that I'm just like, I can't. Fucking Annabelle creation, fucking no.
Oh, except for Get Out. That was another great horror movie.
Oh, dude, Get Out was sick! I watch movies for a living. It's kind of my job. And I've seen, especially this year, a lot of movies that have been very paint by numbers, movies by committees, franchise movies, these kind of big things.
Yeah. Name 5 movies you've seen this year.
5 movies I've seen this year. Well, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I remember that one. I had a good time watching that. But again, it's a part of the big franchise Marvel. It's it's
Keep
like
going.
candy.
Come on, you got 10 more seconds.
10 more seconds.
5 movies.
5 more movies that I've seen this year. I saw the King Arthur movie that made me throw up. I remember that one because that was a visceral experience.
5 seconds left.
I remember, fuck. What else? I don't
3,
even remember. They all suck. I don't
2,
know. I don't
1.
even. I know I'm missing something. Ketty. I saw the Ketty film. I really love that documentary about cats.
All right, your time's up, and you only named 3 movies. But don't you think you're going to remember Mother?
I will remember Mother. I absolutely do. I know I've seen so many movies. And that's but that just shows you where I'm at with Hollywood right now, is that a lot of movies that I do see, they're really not that memorable. They're very just consumable. They're of the moment, they're ephemeral, and then once you watch it, it's over, it's gone, move on.
But that's not what this is.
No, I think this movie is something that's really special. I think it really has something to say. I think it's got a vision, it's got a lot of talented people working on it. There's an intention with it, and I really appreciated it for all those things.
Do you think a lot of people are misinterpreting the message of the movie?
Well, I think a lot of people are shutting themselves off to the movie because it may not appeal to, their certain sensibilities. But for me personally, this movie definitely appealed to my sensibilities. I like absurdism, I like surrealism, I like horror, I like allegory, I like all the things, like alchemical shit. I'm into all that. So, for this movie, I was like, yeah. Mother isn't for everybody. It's not for a mainstream audience, for sure. I think it's kind of like a cinephile movie, but that's how Aronofsky's movies are. I mean, it's kind of for a niche audience, per se.
Oh, cinephiles, I agree. If you're really into movies, you definitely need to see this movie.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of mainstream audiences, they go to a film because they want to be transported somewhere, and but they generally want to be transported somewhere that like makes them feel positive, or it like ends on this really high note. And with Aronofsky's films, like every time I've watched one of his films, they have definitely affected me and put me in a very uncomfortable place. If you want to blame anybody for the failure of this film, failure I say, it is the marketing people. Because when a film is done, then you have this whole team of people that come in and they look at it and they figure out how to sell this movie to a mainstream audience to get as many people to come watch the movie as possible. I mean, that's one thing. It's like Aronofsky always, he's not a mainstream he's not Pixar, okay? Like, let's be real about it. I mean, I'm down for the auteur, you know? I'm here for the auteur. I feel like Aronofsky, whether you like his subject matter or not, he definitely has something that he intended to say with this movie, and he fucking said it. And I'm just like so excited after seeing so many garbage movies to just see like a real movie.
Oh, that's true. That's true. This is an artist's vision.
Yeah, I feel like once people figure out that it's more of a metaphorical, symbolic, surrealist, absurdist film and not a linear story that's grounded in reality, a lot of people check out. A lot of people aren't interested in that. Well, that's what's so interesting to me about this movie, is that I feel like it's a really interesting mix of both a linear story but also a dreamlike surrealist story. So it has elements of both, and I think that's really cool. And I don't know, I like seeing that, because usually you see something, like, if you see something that's surrealist, it's, like, way fucking surrealist, where you really gotta go with it and, like, be okay with it, or it's very much grounded in realism. Definitely Jodorowsky's films, if you watch The Holy Mountain, if you watch El Topo, any of that guy's fucking films, like, those are abstract films to the fucking 10th degree, okay?
Those are way more abstract than this movie.
Yeah, and I own those on Blu-ray, and I watch them a lot. And I actually subject my friends and family to them, too. So, I mean, it's like, I'm down for, like, a weird, surrealist experience. Like, I'm totally down, but I realize that's
Most people
not
would not be able to handle a Jodorowsky movie.
No. It's not for everybody. But for me, it's fucking... yes.
So I think this movie is also a technical work of art.
Yeah, that's another thing that I really loved about this movie, is that there is so much love put into it, and that's something that I really appreciate. I appreciate when someone, like, is super extra about their stuff. Like, they're not just trying to get it done and fucking move on with their lives and make their money. Like, they're really here to do something. This movie, Darren Aronofsky, before he even made it and went into, like, real production, like, he rented a house, had some friends come over, and then he just shot the movie, you know? Like, did a whole pre-visualization movie.
He shot a whole practice movie first?
Yes, he shot a whole fucking practice movie, and then...
I've never heard of anybody doing that.
And then this movie took 53 weeks to edit. Like, there's 52 weeks in a year.
It took over a year to edit?
Over a year to edit this. I mean, that's not something that that's not something that normally happens.
That's meticulous level work.
Meticulous. Very meticulous.
That's caring about every frame.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. And I feel like the editing in the film is fucking amazing. I mean, I was, like, so impressed with the editing in this movie, how they were able to make this space just, like, I mean, when all these people start showing up, it's just like, oh, fuck, like, it's just so well done.
I heard this movie was shot with only 3 camera angles.
Yeah, the majority of the film is either, on Jennifer Lawrence's face, like, straight on, or it's a tight, right over the shoulder shot from behind her, or a few times, like, they cut away, and then you have, like, this whole scene, like, this tableau. So most of it is these 3 shots and, like, moving in between these 3 different types of shots.
Why do you think there's only 3 shots?
Because Aronofsky really wanted you to feel like you were with this character. He was trying to give you a first-person perspective, and I think that this worked way better than seeing something like Hardcore Henry, where they did a whole movie of, like, first-person perspective, but, like, there's, like, a GoPro cam.
You're right. There's a similarity between both of those movies. When I walked out of both of them, I still felt like I was in the movie.
Yes, but as, like, Hardcore Henry, though, I got a little sick. And like, it was too much. Whereas the way Aronofsky did it, I felt like it worked much better for me personally.
This is a much more effective first-person point of view movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally was feeling everything that Jennifer Lawrence was feeling. I mean, you were traveling with her throughout the whole film. Definitely.
I'm not sure where to start here.
I know, it's a lot. It's a lot because that's the thing. It can be read on so many different levels. And that's why it's really interesting because you can read it on so many different levels. But on one level, I think on the biggest level, okay, Jennifer Lawrence is essentially Mother Earth. She represents, you know, this being who created this giant house, who's built this place. This house is like our physical realm where we live, our planet. And you have this masculine force, you know, who needs to have this adoration of these masses. He's this creator god, this paternal situation. And so, you know, you have these two. She just wants a relationship with him. He needs more than that. And, you know, you have all these people coming in who represent humanity at large. And obviously the place gets overrun really fast. And, like, poor Mother Earth, man, she just, like, can't catch a break, you know? She's just, like, fucked over at every turn. And, like, nobody gives a shit that this is her house. And, like, nobody pays any attention to her. And it just shows, like, how trashy humanity is and how we're just so fucking horrible and gross and violent and fucked up and weird. I mean, it's absolutely a mirror to humanity, and it's a very unflattering image because it's truth. I mean, it's based in truth. I mean, we do trash our fucking planet. We don't work with our environment. We don't respect our environment. We think it's ours, and we think that it'll just constantly clean up after us. And that's not the case. I mean, eventually you can push things too far to a limit where there's no turning back, and then there's this great, you know, explosion. But I mean, it just shows war. It shows, you know.
Well, my primary interpretation was that the purpose of the artist was to cause you as a viewer to feel empathy for the Earth itself as an abused being.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because our Mother Earth is a passive force. I mean, Mother Earth really can't fight back. We can cut down all these trees, but, like, the trees aren't going to fight back. You know, can't do that.
Teacher, I thought that this movie was really scary.
It is really scary, and I'm amazed at how many horrors that Aronofsky was able to tap into in this movie. I mean, it's so relatable. I felt like I really related with Jennifer Lawrence's character.
What horrors did you relate to?
God, what didn't I relate to? I mean, the horror of house guests, you know? I mean, it sucks having a guest. And I've had guests, and I fucking am not awesome.
Can't wait for him to leave.
Oh, I'm bad. I'm not good with that shit. The horror of cleaning up messes after a giant party, you know? And just being stuck with having to clean up this fucking filth. Like, that just sucks. And, like, I've totally been there. Like, I know how she feels. The horror of bitchy older women. You know, that's something that maybe a lot of guys don't deal with, but as a younger girl, it's like, yeah, every now and then you come across this fucking shark, man, this lady who's just, like, bitchy and just, like, fuck, it sucks, you know? And at the same time, also, she's, like, prying, the horror of people prying into your personal business, you know, asking you why you haven't had a baby yet, you know? Or, like, when, you know, it's like, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna have a baby? You know, the pressure that older people put on you. Like, that's a real horror. Yeah, and also the horror of someone insinuating that your man might be gay, you know? And, like, that's why he doesn't want you. You know, it's like, oh, God, like, that fucking sucks. The horror of violence. You know, there's just so much violence in this. The horror of mobs. The horror of being in a crowd. The horror of public speaking when they're having the funeral and the dad looks over and he's like, will you say something? And she's just like, I don't fucking have anything to say to your fucking son's funeral. You know, and Javier Bardem just, like, jumps in, you know, but it's like, that fucking sucked. The horror of living with a creative, you know, like living with someone who's this creative, who needs all this time to work on their thing, and you just have to be like, okay, well, I'll be over here cleaning while you work on your big thing. You're so much fucking better than me. There's the horror of not being able to trust your significant other. You know, like, she doesn't trust this guy with their baby, and, like, and then he fucking turns around and fucks it up. Like, it's like the horror of, like, knowing that they're gonna fuck up, and then they do fuck up, and then they fuck up so bad, and it was even worse than you anticipated, you know? It's just like, oh, the horror of relationships. It's just like the horror of zealotry. We have these crazy people who are freaking out over this, you know, Bible or this word, this poem, and, like, going nuts. The horror of fame. horror of fame, you know, and all these fans coming in and like trying to take your shit, and like the horror of people stealing shit from your house. The horror of family drama. When that other family comes in, they're all yelling about the will, you know, before the murder happens. It was just like, God. I don't know. I feel like I've been in almost every single one of these situations in my life at some point. And I was just like, wow, it really evoked all those feelings and it just hit it perfectly. And I was really impressed with that. And I think that for me personally, like, I don't know, I'm okay with being in a really uncomfortable place when I watch a movie. Like, I've watched a lot of really weird movies that are really make you feel really weird. And so I'm okay with this movie being this, like, nightmarish hellscape, you know, this surrealist thing. Yeah, this movie taps into so many relatable horrors, especially if you're a female. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that anyone can relate to, but especially if you're a lady.
It was a lot scarier than It.
Oh, yeah. It was nothing compared to this, for me personally.
It wasn't very relatable for me.
No, and I remember I kept thinking about that baby when it stopped crying. You know, like that scene was done so well and it was so disturbing, and I thought about it for a few days afterwards. It kept kind of coming to me, and I was like, oh, that's so awful. Like, oh.
To me, this movie felt the most like a nightmare that I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
Like a real nightmare.
Yeah, a real nightmare. Well, before we get into spoilers, I also want to talk about the relationship between Jennifer Lawrence and Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're dating?
Well, during the process of this movie, they were dating, and I think that that's really awesome. Like, I think it's really cool.
A director-actor relationship.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's what happens when you have people. You have the director, and then you have the actress, the star, and he's kind of making this movie around her, but she's also powering his vision, and like they're kind of helping each other in this really cool way. And it's such like, in creating something like this, like an alchemical movie on this level, I feel like it's really cool that they got together because this is kind of their baby, you know? Like, this is J-Law and Darren Aronofsky's baby. And you can really see how much he loves her and how he's inspired by her throughout this movie. The way that he just... I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is in the fucking prime of her youth, okay? She is just full flower right now. I mean, she's just so beautiful. And you can see that. I mean, the way he frames every shot, the way he makes her look, you can see that love. You know, that you can tell that he's like totally into her, the way he shoots her. And also on the flip side, like, this is such a tough role for Jennifer Lawrence to take on, and I have such mad respect for her. I have a lot of respect for her. I know there's a lot of J-Law backlash on the internet.
Is there?
There is. I was tweeting about this movie, and a lot of people were like, well, I don't want to see it because J-Law, you know? And it's like...
Oh, well, that's a strong bias.
I think it is a bias because I think that she's a very genuinely talented girl. And I think that she's a very intelligent person. I see her soul. I see that she has a soul. And I like that she chose to take on this alchemical role and chose to take on this very difficult role.
Do you think that a lot of people just have resentment towards A-list celebrities these days?
Well, absolutely. I think a lot of it stems from resentment towards A-list celebrities. Absolutely. And I think that, I don't know, I think it's a real misunderstanding. I mean, I feel like Jennifer Lawrence, like, I'm not a really big A-list celebrity, you know, star fucker person. Like, I don't care. But Jennifer Lawrence in particular, you know, I see that she's a person. She's like thinking, and she's got a soul.
She's not one of those dead celebrities.
She's not one of those like dead inside celebrities. Like, she's absolutely a real person in there, and she's having this really crazy experience of, as a human being, becoming an A-list celebrity and being a more aware person. And I feel like it's really reflected in her character choices. I mean, she chose to be Katniss, you know, who was someone who was brought up by the Capitol, just like she has been brought up by Hollywood, and she has to play this game, even though the whole time she's like really like a down-ass human being. So, you know, I really fucking think she's awesome, and this role is so difficult. Like, what she had to go through, I mean, she was in terror like the whole fucking movie, and to put yourself in that, and to stay in that, and to trust. I mean, you would have to have a highly intimate relationship with your director to be able to trust them to do those sorts of things with you and bring you to those places, because as a performer, I mean, you need to be able to trust your director inherently. you know,
And on the flip side, as a director, you would have to have a crazy intimate relationship with your actress to make a movie like this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You would have to have implicit trust between the both of them. And you see that shine through. And I just think it's really cool when you have a very talented man and a very talented woman come together and they use their talents to create something larger than themselves. I mean, I'm for that, dude. I am here for that.
I think they should have marketed this movie as an Oscar movie or an art movie.
Yeah, it's very hard to market this film. It's really difficult to say exactly how you would do it because it is very much an art house, like...
It's difficult to explain what it's about.
Yeah, it's not a normal movie. So, like, I feel for the marketers in this. Like, I get, like, their dilemma. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe just, like, market it as if, it's a fucking experience to see an Aronofsky film, which it is, like, it is a visceral experience. Every time I've seen one of his movies, I've been just like, oh, like, afterwards, whether I'm disturbed or rolling around on the ground or, like, crying or, like, whatever the fuck, like, I'm always, like, he always gets a reaction out of me.
Oh yeah, how do you feel about other Aronofsky movies?
Oh, I mean, I've had such an interesting history with Aronofsky. I remember the first Aronofsky film I saw was Requiem for a Dream. I was in high school. I was in Alabama. I had to go to several different stores, like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, to find an unrated version of it because a lot of them were censored, and I wanted to see, like, the whole thing. And I finally found it after, like, 2 or 3 stores. I finally found it. And I was so disturbed after watching that movie. It really stuck with me for a long time. Then, of course, like, I saw The Fountain in the theaters. I cried like a baby. I never saw it again, actually. I should probably revisit it. I saw Black Swan. I was, like, rolling around on the ground afterwards. I was just like, what did I just watch? Like, what the fuck? Like, it's so crazy. Pi, I watched that on Netflix a few years ago. I had a lot of fun with Pi. That one was definitely like, oh, and that's one of his earlier ones. And then The Wrestler also. I also enjoyed The Wrestler. Like, I also fucking enjoyed The Wrestler, because I used to be a big fan of wrestling, so I was like, yeah, like, I was fucking down with all of it.
So Aronofsky movies have had an effect on you.
Oh, totally, totally. And that's why I will go give him my money. Like, that's why I will show up when he makes a movie, because... like it or not, he always gets, like, a reaction out of me. I always get very invested emotionally in his films. He's able to, like, evoke all these, like, really complex emotions. And I really appreciate that. And I think that's a testament to his directing skills.
Oh, yes. And Mother, in particular, is quite the emotion machine.
Totally. I mean, totally. It's such an emotion machine. And after just seeing... so many surfacey garbage films this summer, I was just so appreciative of having a film like Mother that just, like, really, like, I was like, oh my god, like, I was so in on this movie. Like, I really felt like I was there. I was with Jennifer Lawrence. I was feeling all these things that she was feeling. It brought up a lot of stuff that was really interesting for me. And that's what art's supposed to do, is, like, you're supposed to watch something and it's supposed to evoke these complex feelings that you kind of have to process, and then you, like, learn more about yourself through watching this art.
I thought it was disturbing.
Well, yeah. I mean, he always is, like, Aronofsky always goes to the dark side, but that's something I'm kind of interested in as a viewer. I like a director who can take me to the dark side and take me through this really cool experience that isn't necessarily an uplifting one, but something that you still get something from at the end. Well, I mean, this movie is something that, like, okay, so we're judging it all right now because it just came out, but, like, with a lot of his films, I feel like it'll stand the test of time. Like, right now people may be really divisive about it, and a lot of people may be rejecting it, but I feel like over time, this film will definitely find a home for itself. It will find its audience. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy its message and, like, get a lot from it. I think it's a really great piece of art, and I'm really excited by it. I think I'm really inspired by it, and I'm just happy to have something that gets me thinking, makes me want to see it again, Like, do I understand every single allegory in there? Like, no. Like, who the fuck does Kristen Wiig represent? I don't know. What the fuck is that yellow shit she's drinking? I don't fucking know. It's okay to not understand, like, everything. Not everything logically has to make sense. It's all to evoke this feeling. I really do think that a lot of people are over it with religion, and so a lot of people, when they start picking up on those religious aspects of the film, they just cut off to it, and they're like, oh, this is some Bible film, and it's just like, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's not about the Christian, Judaic, Islamic creation myth. It is about how religion has shaped, our world, and the interplay between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and how the feminine is this cyclical energy. Welcome to Advanced Mother. We're really going to get into it today.
Advanced Mother?
Advanced Mother.
Oh, wow.
So let's dig a little deeper into this film. And speaking of alchemical art, if you want to experience some art with me, we're going to be doing Watchmen Club. It's my next book club. It's going to be going on in February of next year, but in preparation, we're going to be selling a Watchmen box, which includes this copy of the graphic novel, as well as awesome stickers, a robot comedian patch, like a bookmark. It's going to be like super sick. So check it out in October. Watchmen Club box pre-sale. It's going down.